Performance comes down to controlling what you can. For tennis pro, Jessica Pegula, that means starting with the air around her. She can't control her opponent or the match, but she can control her rest and recovery. That's why she's trusted Blue Air for 5 years and counting. Blue Signature air purifiers are engineered to perform and designed to impress, with 7 stages of advanced filtration, up to 10 times more odor removal, and customizable colors and accessories. Shop blueair.com and use code SIGNATURE30 to save.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
I'm a nobody from nowhere that ain't never done nothing. That's what I am. An old head. These young coaches, I tell you what, I can't figure these jokers out. They got a backpack on and tight something. I don't know what they're doing. They're getting on my nerves, I can tell you that. I know what ain't in the backpack. A string and a let me paint that line for you. That ain't in there. That's for sure. I had a kid the other day. He said, "Hey, Coach, didn't Christopher Columbus write the Pledge of Allegiance?" I said, "He sure did. He also played quarterback for the 1985 Chicago Bears." He said, "Bet." That happened. Sun Coaches, Season 6, where coaches come and tell their stories. Some of them are funny. Some of them is going to help you in your coaching journey. Not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Sun Coaches, brought to you by Titan Sensor. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA, proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A Georgia State champion Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, and today I'm excited to be joined by the head coach at Alexander High School, Coach Cody Neal. Thanks for being on with us.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me.
Well, Coach, tell everybody where you actually grew up and went to high school.
So I grew up in West Cobb County, graduate of Harrison High School back in 2007. So I played under one of the legends, Bruce Cobley. So we were one of those wing T teams. So, from the time I was in first grade, 424 guard trap meant the same thing from first grade all the way up to my senior year. So very blessed to have played and grown up in a program like that. And, still proud to be a Hoya. So not too many people can say that they're a Hoya, so. Well,
did you just play football in high school? Or did you play other things?
Grew up, I was always a baseball and football guy. And then once I got to high school, and it's probably one of my regrets, I just went with football. And not necessarily a regret, but I wish I would have played baseball a little bit longer. Maybe not necessarily just for the high school, but, just in general, it was definitely a love of mine. And, but I was always a baseball football guy.
What was it like playing for a legend? I know he's one of the best to ever do it in this state for sure.
Yeah. So, when you Coach Cobley, man, he is definitely one of the smartest football guys that I'd ever been around. Even from the very beginning, just when you asked him a football question, he would just kind of look at you like, are you dumb? And then just kind of give you and, for somebody like him that had been running the wing T for so long, it was, by the time I came around, I was towards the end of his career. I think he retired a year or 2 years after I had left. It was just something else. And I wish I would have, I knew he was a legend at that time. But I guess looking back now, I wish I would have appreciated a little bit more and tried to pick his brain, especially in those years right before he passed away. You know, I wish I would have utilized him a little bit more as a resource. But very blessed to have been with him and his staff. You know, there were a lot of great coaches on that staff too.
So what position did you play?
So I was a quarterback. You know, it's probably why I got into coaching. I tell everybody all the time, I said, you know, if you look up the passing records at Harrison High School, you'll see my name. It's just under the scout team. You know, the two guys in front of me, one of them went to Wake Forest and one of them went to West Georgia. And the two guys that were younger than me, one of them went to Auburn. He played wide receiver, Darvin Adams, and then a kid that was 2 years younger than me. I think he went to Cumberland University. So I was sandwiched in between all these scholarship quarterbacks. So the scout team was really, really about the only place I could find a home. But you know, man, I just loved it. You know, you know, Monday through Thursday was kind of my Friday nights. And then on Friday nights, you know, I might get some cleanup duty, or, you know, I was a holder on PAT field goals or something like that. But man, I don't regret any of it. I loved every second.
So you didn't play college football. You just went to college.
So I actually did play 1 year at LaGrange College.
Okay.
So LaGrange had just started their football program. It was going to be their second year, and Coach Cobley called down there. And so I was able to go on a visit, and really it was my only opportunity. So I was down there, and you know, I was able to get on that team, and you know, I was the third or fourth string quarterback. You know, the funny thing about that team now is, you know, it was full of coaches. You know, looking at that team, I know Drew Carter is a head coach in high school here in Georgia. Robert Walsh is now a high school quarterback. We were the three quarterbacks there, so we were all freshmen at the time, and now we're all head coaches here in Georgia. Nate Masters, Justin Montgomery. There are several other guys that were on that team. You know, they were all much better football players than me, but you know, we were probably a pretty good little group as far as scheming people up and know what to do. We probably just weren't the most athletic kids there were.
Yeah, we sent a couple of kids from Lithia there, the Okpani brothers. They went and played
Oh, yeah.
at LaGrange College. Richard and
Yeah.
what was Richard's little brother's name?
I remember Richard for sure.
Yeah, Richard was a linebacker kid. They used to call him Taz, the Tasmanian Devil, because he wasn't real tall, but he was like
Right.
all over the place, and he would knock your face off.
Absolutely. Yep. I know him well.
And very intelligent kid, and good mama. She was from Africa, and she was like she was a software engineer. She did something with software engineering, and I'll never forget, she asked me where I lived, and my wife and I lived in Temple. Mm-hmm. And I drove my wife worked inside the perimeter, and I just drove to Lithia every day. And she said, "Oh, that is many, many villages from here." I mean, she had that accent and everything, but Richard and his brother, they were just good kids and hard workers and very intelligent, which you had to have been too, because LaGrange College wouldn't let you in if you weren't smart.
You know what? Coach Cobley must have lied a lot when he called those coaches down there. So they got me in somehow, though.
Well, good school, good opportunity for you. And so you said you knew, I mean, did you always know you wanted to teach and coach, or did you go to school to do something else initially?
Yeah. So I was never one of those guys that, you know, that said, you know, I want to grow up and be a doctor or really have any sort of plan. And once I got into high school, you know, at the end of your senior year, Coach Cobley calls everybody over, and he would, you know, say, "Hey, what's your GPA? What do you want to do school wise?" and get everybody's opinion. Well, you know, it was the Monday after the season had ended. And so he calls me over, and he sits me down, and he doesn't ask me a question. He just says, "All right, Cody, this is what we're going to do. You're going to go to Kennesaw State. All right, you're going to coach in the middle school program here. I know the PE department will get you a PE degree, and you're going to come back here and coach." And I said, "Okay, that sounds great." And I was going to do that. And that was my plan. And then, you know, I was like, well, I'd kind of like to give this college football thing a try, even if I'm just walking on somewhere. So I went that route. And so I did that at LaGrange for a year. And then I decided, you know, LaGrange is an expensive school. And so I was like, you know what, I'm not going to the NFL. I'm not doing anything. I'm ready to go back and coach. So that's when I contacted the coaches back at Harrison and said, yeah, I'm ready to come back home. So I coached the middle school at Harrison. That was the first thing I did. I went back and got a 7th grade team, and they let me call the offense. And I followed this team up from 7th grade to 8th grade to 9th grade. Around that same time, I started learning how to do all the end zone filming and huddle stuff and all that fun stuff, So I was, coaching a middle school team and then made my way up to the freshmen, which I wasn't technically allowed to do that yet because I wasn't 21. So I was just observing freshman practice. And then, I'd film the home games or film all the games on Friday night. So that's just kind of how I started cutting my teeth on all the coaching stuff.
So when you finally got out of college, what was your first official could work job?
So when I did my student teaching at Kennesaw Mountain High School, and that's where I ran into Andy Scott, and he was the head coach at Kennesaw Mountain, and I was the varsity wide receivers coach. And so on that staff, you talk about some of the legends with Andy. There was Mike Feaster and Wade Stewart, and all those guys were on there. So that was a great learning experience to be around those guys for my student teaching year. And after that, I went to South Paulding High School with Ed Coster. That's where I met up with guys like Mike Wagner and Joe Scott and some of those guys there. So those are my first few years of coaching.
Buckethead Mike Wagner. God bless America. We worked together at Lithia Springs. That's my boy right there.
You won't find too many better people than Mike Wagner, man. He was at my he wasn't in my wedding, but he was at my wedding. Just a great dude.
Absolutely.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games, all for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Just one of the funniest dudes. I mean, you talk to him for 30 seconds and you feel like you've known him your entire life. And he's just, it was a blessing to be with him for 4 or 5 years, however it was at South Paulding.
Oh yeah. If you don't like Mike Wagner, something's wrong with you. I mean, he's just a good person. Him and Charlotte and the kids. I mean, well, they're grown now, but Chaz and Katie. And I mean, it's just, I coached Chaz when he was in middle school and he was still elementary. My wife always used to say, she's like, Chaz is going to be president one day. And then he ends up going to West Point. And she's like, I told you, he's going to be president one day. Because I mean, he's just always that way. And then Katie, she was a trip when she was little. But yeah, Mike's good people. And Joe's brother, Cavius Preston, we worked together at Burke County. And Joe's now, head coach at Hiram.
He is, man, and
he's good people too.
I was so happy to see that, man. That's awesome. Hiram is in good hands with Joe Scott. I can vouch for that.
Oh, absolutely, the Fitzgerald Flash. But yeah, that's awesome. I was actually Snake Tim Glanton got me up there to be the head coach at Austin at the middle school one year. 18 years ago today, actually, my first child passed away, was born without kidneys. But anyway, I needed a reset, and he was like, well, come on up here and run my middle school for me. So I went up to Austin, and Mike came over there with me. And Mike ran the offense, and I ran the defense, and we did exactly what South Paulding did. And it had just opened, like it was like the second year, I think, that it had been open. And we had a large time, but that's cool. So how long were you at South Paulding with Coach Coster?
I was there. Let's see. So I took I actually got hired in January. So I graduated in December, and they were looking, the school was growing. So they added a PE spot middle of the year. So they were looking for somebody like me that was, who was, not married, not with kids, because they didn't know if that position was going to be there at the end of the year. So they were looking for somebody like me. And so I jumped in. That would have been January of 2015. And so I was at South Paulding from January 15 all the way until 2021, I believe is what it was. And so, yeah, I was there with Ed Coster. And then Jason Thompson was the head coach after him. And then, we had some turnover in there. So yeah, that South Paulding was it was a wild time with our head coaches in there, but man, I learned a lot.
So what all did you get to coach while with all the regime changes?
So with Coster, I was the quarterbacks and running backs coach, and Josh Carmichael was our offensive coordinator. He liked to be more of the wide receivers at that time, but I just doing whatever Coach Carmichael needed me to do with the quarterbacks and running backs, and so that's what I was with Coach Coster. And then once he retired, Jason Thompson came in, and we had a fun 2 years there. I don't know if you know Jason Thompson, but man, that's one of my favorite people. I was the wide receivers coach with him, and once Thompson left, he went back to Gwinnett, and Jason Nash became the head coach. He was our defensive coordinator, and somewhere in that Jason Nash regime, I became the offensive coordinator. That would have been his first year, second year. I can't remember exactly, but I became the offensive coordinator with 2 games left in the COVID season. So we had we were getting ready for East Paulding, and I was the wide receivers coach, and we had to make a change at offensive coordinator for various reasons. And so I actually took over the play calling. I believe it was a Tuesday afternoon right before we're going to practice. And we ended up beating East Paulding that night, 21-14. And so we were, let's see, the next game was actually Alexander. Now that's ironic enough where I'm at now. And so we have a morning practice. We have morning practices on Wednesday. I go, running practice like normal. We had a great practice. The winner of this game is going to go to the playoffs. And I go to get in my truck to go back up to the school, and I drink black coffee. I go to sip the coffee, and I can't taste it. And so I'm like, man, every thought runs through your mind. And me and my wife, we were expecting our first child at the time, and COVID. This is late October, early November. So I'm sitting there going, what do I do? And so of course I go and do what I'm supposed to do. I called my wife, and I'm like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And, she goes, well, I mean, obviously you got to go tell somebody, because you could be somebody who spreads this thing. And so, we went and we told our principal, and of course they went and they checked cameras everywhere, because you had the whole 6-foot rule, you know what I mean? And so they said, well, at the time I was running the weight room. So they're like, Cody, you're in the weight room with these kids. You were the special teams coordinator. You just took over the offensive coordinator. We have you in, where you're calling plays from the sideline in a huddle. Like, we've got to cancel next week's game. And that was one of the worst feelings I've had. So we had to cancel the last game against Alexander, and Alexander got to go to the playoffs, while my South Paulding kids at the time, their season was over at that point. So that was terrible. Because, I couldn't even be there when the kids found out about it. Most of them, I think they've forgiven me from now at this point, and they understand. At the time, I'm sure they didn't understand, and I'm sure they wanted to beat my brains in. But that was definitely tough.
Yeah, I mean it's easy for us as adults to say, but I mean obviously it's not your fault. I mean that's just, man, that sucks. You talk about bad luck. So where'd you go after South Paulding?
So the next year I became the full-time OC at South Paulding. So we had a really good year. And, after the season, it was around maybe late February, early March. I'm actually outside cutting grass, and a buddy of mine calls, and he says, hey, man, Adam Carter wants your number. And I was like, why in the world does Adam Carter want my number? And he said, Grayson's looking for an offensive coordinator. So I said, okay, well, you can give him my number. I lived in Hiram. I'm sure you know where that is. And, Grayson's all the way over there in Gwinnett County. Well, the next morning, Adam Carter calls, and we get to talking. And I become the next offensive coordinator at Grayson. And so the challenging thing about that was, we just had our first son, Luke. He was about 2 years old, and we were expecting our second, Noah. So my wife was like, hey, you can take this job, but, both of our families are from West Cobb or right there in that Paulding County area. And we're like, we're not moving. So me and another coach, Josh Sissel, he lived not far from me. He also he came with me to Grayson. So it was a 62-mile one-way trip from Hiram to Grayson that we made every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody knows anything about Coach Carter, I mean, you're going to work. And so in Grayson, they start school at 7:15 in the morning. So that was for a full year, you're looking at getting up at 4:15 every day, and you're probably getting home around 9:15 at night. So that was a challenge, but I mean, I can't say one negative thing about Adam Carter. That man is one of the best football coaches I've ever been around. He is so smart. He is a great guy. He always treated me extremely well. And I'm probably not the head coach at Alexander High School without him. So, I'm extremely grateful. And I just think, God puts you in certain places for a reason. And there are plenty of times where I was like, man, why am I making this drive? Why in the world did you put me here, Lord? But, I think I see why now, or at least I've got an idea why. So.
And y'all won it that year, didn't you?
We did not. We got knocked out by Milton in the third round.
Oh, okay. So it was the year after.
That would have been that'd have been the fall of 22 or fall of 23.
Oh, okay.
I believe, yeah. And so we were there, and I enjoyed my time there. Grayson, that's an unbelievable place. There are a lot of great people that work there, and so I tell Adam at the end of the year, hey man, I'm gonna try to look for something a little bit closer to home. And we had already kind of started hearing some rumors about possible Lowndes County opening up, and him might be in there. So everything worked out. And so he took the Lowndes County job, and I think they're gonna keep winning a lot of football games down there with him at the lead.
And that's when you got the head coaching job at Alexander.
Yes, sir. So I was looking. There were two jobs that opened up that I applied for, and that I got interviews for. And Alexander was the first one to call and offer me the job. And Alexander is a rival of my old school at South Paulding, and so I always came over here, and the stands were always packed, and it seemed like a really great football program and kind of a family atmosphere, very similar to South Paulding. Is kind of what I had in mind. We're only about 15 minutes apart. A lot of our kids go to the same churches and things like that. So, and thankfully, once I interviewed, our athletic director at the time, who's now my principal, Laura McAdams, she called and she offered me the job, and I accepted right then.
So what was going in your first year, first head coaching job like?
It was a whirlwind. I mean, it was. I didn't get hired in the building until around spring break. I think I came in as a full-time coach and teacher here the week before spring break or something. So I mean, we're trying to hire a staff. We're trying to get ready. Our spring game was against Mays, so imagine trying to put a staff together.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Learn your kids. Here we are in the age of the high school recruiting transfer portal. You're trying to keep kids here. Some kids are leaving, and all while thinking, hey, Mays and those dudes are just waiting on you in about a month and a half. So it was, that first go around, those first few weeks were pretty tough. But, the entire first year was just about trying to set that standard, try to understand what the expectations are here. And I guess you can say every job is open for a reason. And sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's not that good. But, we just, we came in and we tried to tell our kids, this is how we're going to do some things here. These are the non-negotiables. We still want you guys to have fun and be yourselves, but we've got to be able to, do things the right way around here.
So what was the hardest thing? Was it winning the kids over, trying to figure out, being a head coach sounds like it's a great idea. The X's and O's aren't the problem. That's what we tell people all the time. It's like, the football part's not hard. It's all the other nonsense you got to deal with that you're not, there's no way to get ready for it, but to do it.
Right.
I mean, we can tell people that till we're blue in the face, and especially younger guys. We're like, look, man, I'm all for you doing it. Just know there's some things you just have to experience.
Right.
Because there's no way to prepare for it. I mean, you can get my man, Chris Parker, you can buy all his books. You can read all his stuff. You can talk to whoever you want to, but there's going to be situations that occur that there's no way to prep for.
Absolutely. And, I think I probably took it for granted as far as, playing it like a Harrison High School and being able to, see what a program looks like, so, from the time I was in elementary school all the way up, I'm a Harrison Hoya. I'm wearing blue and green. I'm running the wing tee. This is what I do. And then you get over here and one of the challenges we faced here was there's no youth or middle school programs that feed into the school. And so, we don't have a 6th and 7th and 8th grade team. So when these kids come up to us from freshmen, like obviously we know who they are, but you really don't know what you're getting into. And so that was a huge challenge for us because you kind of look, all right, well, what's coming down the pipe here? What do we got? And you don't really know. The next thing for us was that, and I took this from Jason Thompson, is, our kids, they're all going to dress alike in the weight room. We're going to wear red shirts and black shorts in the weight room, and we're going to take our jewelry off and we're going to take all that stuff off. And, because when we're together, we're one team. And that took a while because our kids, they haven't done that before. And, just a lot of small things like, hey, this is the way that your locker is going to look. If your locker is not going to look like this, well, there's going to be a consequence, and it might just be, all right, you're going to do a couple up downs here. You don't have to run them till they die or anything, but you know what I mean? There were a lot of small little things like that we had to get taken care of before we felt like, that we could really take off as a program. And to me, that was, a lot of coaches, I think, take that stuff for granted, especially when you're at established programs and the kids kind of already know the expectation and they know what to do. It's tough. It's tough because, these kids are like, well, this program's only won, 3 games the previous year. Now, Coach Neal, you're here and it's the first year and you only won 2 games. And, this school down the road, 10 minutes from here, they're going to the, second and third round of the playoffs. Why should I care? They let them wear jewelry over there. Who cares? And, it's just tough. It's tough to answer those questions but you just got to believe in what you do. You know what's right as a coach and you just got to stick to your guns. I'm not saying that you don't adjust when you need to, for sure. We can't be too hard-headed and stubborn, but you got to stick to your guns and what you believe in.
Well, that was one thing I was going to point out to those that are listening and don't realize. Alexander's in Douglas County, and you can throw a rock and hit 5 high schools. It's like any other metro schools in West Metro. Us Middle and South Georgia guys that, the guys that have never been up in Metro that don't understand, there's 6 high schools in Douglas County?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And Chapel Hill, Alexander, and Douglas County are only separated as the crow flies 3 miles. not far.
And I think Carrollton's 18 miles from us, and then
Villarica.
Villarica's right there.
South Paulding ain't far.
South Paulding's close by, so then you get then you look at just inside of 20 inside the perimeter over there, and Westlake is really not far from us at all. So Langston Hughes is about 20 miles from us, so Creekside's close, So, I mean, there's a lot of really, really good programs around here, and for us, that's a challenge because, if people don't like the way that you're doing things, if they don't like your philosophy, and I'm not talking X's and O's or anything, but if they don't like the way you do things, then
they will move.
They will move. It's crazy because now with college's transfer portal, these kids see it. Well, if I'm not starting by the time I'm a sophomore, I got to go. And, I'm like, man, if you think that going to some of these other schools is the answer, like, I don't know what to tell you, so it's tough. I mean, there's so many options. And, I guess that's the biggest. I've never, obviously I've never lived down in South Georgia. I've got a lot of respect for those guys down there. But I would say, I guess that would be one of the bigger differences. It would be tough to pack up and leave some of those South Georgia schools where maybe the nearest school is 50 miles away from me.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, we don't, I don't begrudge you guys. I hate Atlanta. I lived there, and it's just because I don't like people. And I can't deal with traffic and crowd. I mean, I don't like crowds and all that, whatever. But
right.
What you guys have to deal with, we don't. If a kid, most of the places here, a kid goes, if they get mad, it's like, where are you going to go? Dude, you're 40 minutes from the nearest Walmart. You're not, you're going to have to drive to get. And when we say 40 minutes, it ain't like your 40 minutes might only be 10 miles.
Exactly.
40 minutes here is 40 miles away. That's 60 miles an hour. Let's go now. Where up there, you drive 40 minutes, you might only go 3 red lights down the road.
Right.
Because of traffic,
Within that 15 to 20 miles, I mean, you're looking at McEachern, Hillgrove, Harrison. You're looking at all those big dogs.
East Baldwin,
It's all there, yeah. So
absolutely. And that was something I just remember when I was up there. I was like, good Lord, I can't. This is awful. Traffic was terrible.
It's tough, man. I'm telling you.
And what you younger coaches have to deal with now with kids, I love what you said about it's your program, how you want to do things, doing things the right way, and sticking by your guns. Because ultimately, that's what you have to do. What works for you,
right?
And now you're going into year 3. So how's that going?
Yeah. So I'll say this: our first year, and that's one thing I didn't mention. If this was year 1 for us, after school in the off season, you'd walk in the weight room and it would be a ghost town. We didn't have kids that were hanging out with each other. My offensive coordinator was telling me a story the other day that, when he got here and he was running the weight room for me, he told one kid to go spot some kid on bench or squat or whatever it was. And that kid said, I'm not spotting him. I don't like him. That's what we were dealing with in year 1. I mean, these kids, they had certain cliques, this group over here, this group, and, we're trying to win football games with that. And it's impossible. And now, here it was, before we got on this podcast at 6:30, and I'm telling the kids, y'all have got to go home. All right. If by the time I get off the phone call, if I'm not waiting on you for your parents to come get you, it's 2.5, 3 hours after school right here. And these kids are just hanging out with each other, getting extra lifts in. So, that to us has been the biggest thing that we have seen with our kids, is that they enjoy being around each other. And it was a little bit better last year, but so far this off season, man, it's just with some team building stuff. And that's one thing that I've learned just going into year 3, is that it's not always about X's and O's. It's not all, it's, at the end of the day, these kids are kids and they want to be around each other and they want to have fun and be friends. Of course we all want 5-star dudes and we want to have as many college football players on our team as we can. But if you're being realistic, you're not going to have, the bigger percentage of your team is not going to go play college football. So they want to have good experience. And I think sometimes us coaches, we forget that, we focus too much on X's and O's and college recruiting and things like that, to where your normal kid, your normal 5'9", 175-pound kid, he gets lost in the shuffle. So, those are the guys that we want to focus on, those guys that don't get a whole lot of attention, and just make sure those guys know that they have a huge part on our football team and our football program. So that would be another big thing that I've learned heading into this.
Well, I think part of our job and part of your job is to make sure the young men have a great experience. And when they get to be your age and my age, when they look back on it, they look back fondly on playing high school football,
Right.
Winning's fun, and hopefully they're going to win, ball games. And if they're good enough, they'll get the opportunity to play at the next level. But if they're not, what did they learn, character-wise, and what did they learn about how to be a young man and how to be a husband and a father, and what did they learn about teamwork and staying with something and things like that, and just having a good experience and being able to look back and remember, what it was like being part of that team. I think that's important. It is an extracurricular activity. I mean, it's stuff that they're not getting in the classroom.
Right. And as I tell our kids all the time, Tom Brady might be the greatest to ever do it, and football ended for him at some point. So, thankfully for him, he's got a lot of money to back up. But what's your plan after? You might be the greatest football player to ever come through Alexander High School, but what do people say about you? I know that when I was at South Paulding High School, they had a quarterback there at the time. You probably remember the name Chandler Burks.
Mm-hmm.
I did not coach him. He was already gone before me, but just the way that the people in the building talked about him. Now, coaches, we're all thinking, man, this is the best quarterback that's ever came through here. He's awesome. The way he did stuff was awesome. But I mean, just the normal math teacher would talk about how great of a kid he was. And, just that's what we need to focus on a little bit more. What are people saying about you not as a football player? Are you respectful? Are you kind to everybody? Are you big time in some of those kids in the hallway? Those are the things that are going to take you a lot further than football ever will.
Oh, absolutely. Because you've got to succeed as a person.
Yes.
Because you're going to be a person a whole lot longer than you're going to be a ball player.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And that's something that we can use, athletics as a platform to teach them those things. And I'm glad to hear that people like you are using that, that platform to instill that in them and get them to understand that. I mean, absolutely win games and work on X's and O's, but that other component of it is very important. So what is y'all's region going to look like this year? What are the Alexander Cougars going to look like this year?
Well, we're feeling pretty good about going into this year. Last year, I called the offense last year. And so I've handed those play calling duties over to our offense coordinator now, Coach Luke Hoggard, who I have so much confidence in. His dad is actually a head coach up in North Carolina and has won, I think, some unworldly amount of football games up there. So he's a coach's kid, and I usually get to work somewhere between 6:15 and 6:30 in the morning, and he beats me here, and he's still here somewhere now. Is it at 7:30? So. He's got a great plan in place for our offense. Zach Pine, who was with me at South Paulding and at Grayson, he's going to run our defense for us this year. So our staff has gotten a lot better this offseason. And our kids, the main thing is that, we're a year older. I think we really only graduated about 4 or 5 seniors that had a lot of our, stat production last year. So we were young. I mean, our last game of the year for our offensive line from left to right went freshman, sophomore. We had a senior at center, but we had a sophomore that played, and my right guard and right tackle, they were both sophomores too. So another year in the weight room and another year of an off season, and our kids feel like we're ready to go. We're in there with Rome and East Paulding and Villa Rica and those guys. Rome is still Rome. You know what I mean? John Reed does a great job up there. But everybody else, we feel like, hey, we're going to be right there with you. I think what we tell a lot of people is, our first year at Alexander, when we played South Paulding and we played New Manchester and some of those other schools, in the fourth quarter, it was a running clock. This past year, in year 2, in the fourth quarter, we had the lead. And so, it's just, our kids were still just sophomores, though, and they realized, well, if we just run the ball at their face, they can't do anything about it. And but now that we're a little bit older and a little bit bigger, we feel like we're going to be better.
Well, that's awesome. It's fun to watch them grow up and know where you started from and where you've gotten to in year 3. Ought to be really fun for you guys this year going in. So what were some things that you focused on in the off season besides the weight room to go into this year, knowing that you had a lot coming back?
Yeah, so we incorporated a lot more. Team building type stuff. Whether it's just activities and letting the kids compete with each other, whether it's more activities, kind of military style type, carry the rope type deals, competition type stuff. But, just let the kids have more fun instead of just always being a grind in the weight room. You know what I mean? Just realize that it's a long year. We wanted to avoid burnout. I think a lot of times our kids, when they're playing, I know it was kind of like this at Grayson and South Paulding as well. When the end of the year came, when you got knocked out of the playoffs, those kids were sad. Don't get me wrong, but they're also kind of relieved. They're like, I'm exhausted. And so, that's been a big thing for us is let's don't burn them out here in April and May. We're trying to get to November. So, if it's June or July and our kids are already exhausted, then we did it wrong. So that's been a big thing, giving them a little bit of a break. Our 4-on-1 workouts went really well. And I think the first month of 4-on-1s, we didn't talk scheme. We didn't talk anything. It was just get around the kids, let the kids know the coach from, they see Coach Neal here, but what do they actually know about Coach Neal? Do they know my two sons' names? Do they know Luke and Noah? Do they know my wife, Sarah? Do they know who my favorite college football team is, and do I know those things about them? And so, we wanted to kind of focus on the person instead of the football player for the first, few weeks of the off season. And I think that went a long way.
Oh, that's awesome. I talked to Adam Holly at Cherokee last week, and I'm going to pose the same question to you as a younger guy that is now, you guys now have the reins of this. What are some things that concern you moving forward about Georgia high school football and the direction that it's going in, if anything?
Yeah, I would say probably like everybody else, I would say it's this whole transfer thing is something, and it's going to take a better mind than me to figure it out. But there has to be something has to rein this in, man, or we're just going to, we already have super teams around here. But something has to be done right there to where we're trying to teach kids to, hey, if you're not the starter by your sophomore year, just go somewhere else. I mean, it's just we've got to be able to teach kids to fight through adversity a little bit better than what we're doing. I don't know if I don't necessarily think it's a kid problem. I'm not necessarily saying it's a coach's problem or parents' problem. I don't know. I don't know the answer to it, but I graduated in 2007, like I said, and I think I knew maybe one person who transferred, and they moved states. And so, it wasn't like they were jumping the county line going from Cobb to Paulding or Paulding to Carroll County or anything like that, So to me, that would be my number one thing is just get a hold of this transfer thing, man. It's crazy. You never know what you're going to have when you walk in the building in the morning.
Yeah, Coach Holly talked about that. He also talked about the overlapping schedules with the different sports and everything. And I just told him, I said, well, what I'd like to see y'all do, y'all being you younger guys, because it's y'all's baby now, is maybe think about going back to just 2 teams go, and then get rid of one of the dead weeks, and then back football up to where you're actually not playing until Labor Day. And then you don't have to worry about June so much. Then when they come back after July the 4th, you've got 2 months to get ready. Instead of us having to we're playing football games August the 8th. August the 12th. I mean, that's absurd.
Our first day of school next year is July 31st.
Yeah, and you've probably got a game. It might be a scrimmage, but you probably got a game the first week of August or the second week of August.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and that kind of goes back to what we talked about a second ago, is avoiding burnout. I mean, how in the world, especially if you're one of these teams that go deep in the playoffs and you win the state championship and, you go all the way to December 5th or whatever that date is. I mean, and then you start your off season in January. I mean, we're truly, I mean, we've always known that this is 12 months out of the year, but now we're looking at this going, okay, hold on. What about that kid that's also doing track? What about that kid that wants to play baseball? Well, they're going to do 7-on-7 with their private teams, and they're going to this trainer. And it's just like, you've almost lost the thrill of a Friday night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then you're playing football a month of the season. It's too hot. I mean,
Right,
you're playing
exactly.
games on Friday nights and it's 1,000 degrees. It's
Exactly.
it's
yes.
crazy. So that's something I think y'all are going to have to address in the future, or not. I mean, y'all. I don't know what y'all are going to do with it, but it's definitely changed a lot. But I don't envy you guys going forward with that, because it's definitely not like it was when you were playing, and it's definitely changed. But I'm glad that there's quality guys like you out there now that are pouring into these young people and doing it the right way and doing it for the right reasons. And I'm glad you were willing to come on with me tonight and share your story and share with what you got going on at Alexander and your growth coming from a middle school coach and a filmer, working your way all the way up to a head coach, chewing some dirt along the way.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a fun ride, and I'm only 36, so hopefully I got a lot more left in me, and I'm excited. I appreciate you having me on to let me tell my story and following up some of those legends that you had on here. Like I said, it's an honor to be on here with you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.